I'm going to be rebuilding the mantle. Now, I have thought of every possible way under the sun to try and salvage the current mantle because it was not cheap and it took a lot of time to make. But I just overestimated my skill level and kind of screwed myself over a little bit. So I will be saving the oak because, again, it was really expensive. I'm not just going to throw it away. I'll find some project to use it. But I'm going to be buying new wood to build a new mantle. Although this time I'm going to be reusing aspen wood instead of red oak. So I used aspen wood in the pantry. It's dirty in here again for the countertops. And it's a hardwood, which is what I was wanting for the mantle. Like I wanted something really strong. But it's like a softer end hardwood, but it's cheaper. I'm going to be going to look at the aspen boards today because I want to make sure that there is like grain and veining in it.
Mom.
What? Are you outside? You say hi.
Hi.
So that's the plan. And with this plan, because I'm just rebuilding the mantle, I'm going to make it longer here in the front to cover the bottom part that's driving me crazy. I'm going to get 8-inch wood versus 6, so it's going to be chunkier. And because of that, like if I did it in the red oak, it would be close to $200. And I'm just not willing to do that. I'm just not. So the aspen is going to be more like 90, and it's still going to be beautiful. It's going to be great. I'm going to use the same stain because we really, really like how that turned out. It's probably going to look a little bit different first on red oak versus the aspen, but I think it's going to be great. This design, there's only going to be one mitered edge, and it's going to be between the front piece and the top piece. So then from the front and the top, it'll look really nice. The sides, there will be open-ended seams, and that is like within my realm of skill. I really wanted all the mitered edges, so it looked really cool and seamless. And you know, if I didn't have the really cool secret compartment inside, I would probably be able to do it. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. But I have to be super complicated and super extra, so that's what we're doing. One thing that I'm excited, well, there's multiple things that I'm excited about with this new mantle, but one of the things is this should be a lot easier and more approachable for most people. As long as you have like access to a table saw and a chop saw, miter saw, whatever you want to call it, anybody should be able to build this style of mantle that I'm going to show you. I've gotten a few of these messages, and so I'm going to explain why I'm going to be redoing the mantle as like simply put as I can. From the front, this mantle looks totally done. It looks great. But we have this situation on both sides, and I mitered like this side and this side. So like my plan was, sorry, I got this piece in my other hand, to get this piece right here, and these side pieces were going to be stationary, okay, and then this piece was going to flip up. Well, I underestimated, or I overestimated my skill level, and I just like can't get this to look even somewhat nice. And like this is the good side. Let me show you the other side. This is the other side, and like there's I don't know how to save this. I don't know how. Because when I was gluing these together, you see how they're like slightly off? Yeah, well, that just like screwed up everything. Plus, it's kind of hard to see on this piece, but it's like, see that right there? That is where like the blade kind of like slipped on me a little bit. And so it's just not feasible. It's giving me headaches just thinking about it. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to scrap it. But there was another part of this that like kind of finalized that decision for me. So the other reason, all right, you see this little piece right here? I added this because I nuts and didn't get a long enough piece here for the flip up feature. But this ended up working out because I was like, oh, I'll just get hinges and I'll be able to just like that, right? Just like lift it up and it'll be great. So the hinges I got are 180 hinges, which means they turn 180 degrees. Which means this could hit the TV if we weren't careful. And it's so heavy because it's oak, right? It's super heavy. You have to hold this up with one hand in order to even do anything on the inside, which makes things like plugging in controllers, switching out games on the Switch a little bit more difficult. For the new mantle, the plan is I still need to do the 2 boards because I still need to be able to flip it up. But I'm going to put a thicker board back here. So it's going to be, I think 7.5 inches. There was a situation. There's going to be a thicker board back here, about 7.5, I think, inches. And then this piece is going to be thinner. So then we can flip this up and rest it on the back piece and it's not going to hit the TV. But we still will have access to everything on the inside because like I didn't make this opening from just the front because Shane was like, well, could you just have like the front piece flip up? And it just like, I didn't cut the drywall or anything low enough to do that because I was like, it's going to flip up. It's going to be cool. Hindsight, like just doing the front probably would have been like way easier. And then I wouldn't have had to like worry about if I start putting stuff up on the mantle, taking it down or whatever. So if you do this, think of a front flipping one instead. Aspen wood is also going to be lighter weight wise. So it's just going to be better. This was a kind of expensive mistake, a learning experience, if you will. So if you do a build like this, I definitely highly recommend the secret compartment. Okay, I highly recommend the secret compartment, but I'm hoping this mantle will be way easier and save you guys headaches like it has caused me. I need to show you guys these sweet hinges that I got and how they're gonna work on the boards I just laid out. Of course, one of them I need to return and get a straighter one. I had both kids with me, and so I was like, get the wood and get out. And the one I got is like really like, so we're just gonna return it tomorrow and get a straight one. So these are the hinges. They look very interesting, but what they do is they open like, hold on, they open like this. So what happens, I'll show you, I'm running out of time. Okay, so this is gonna be the part of the mantle that's closest to the shiplap and the TV. And this is the part that's gonna flip up, okay? So these basically go in like this. And then this piece will go up like this, doo-doo-doo, and be able to flip with these hinges. Isn't that cool? I got 8 of them, and I plan on using all 8, so then it's nice and sturdy. But I think this plan is it's gonna work. I think the biggest obstacle that I'm gonna have is making sure that my holes are lined up when the boards are like together. I haven't like quite figured out how I'm gonna do that yet. I have thought about like, well, what if I put the boards up like this, and then, how do you do this? Go like this and draw the circles around the hinges, around the holes. I just don't know how it would work meeting up. Like I need them to be lined up like this. So that's something I'm just gonna have to like figure out, I guess. I've had quite a few of you send me reels and still images of people that have built drawers for their mantles, suggesting maybe that could be a way of solving my issues. Actually seeing a drawer mantle was what inspired this whole conundrum, but a drawer just isn't deep enough for what I need. But I can't do a drawer anyway because of how I built the cavern and everything. I can't put anything on the inside of it. It all has to be external. So I appreciate it, but this is the only thing that's gonna work. It pains me to say. But we're gonna make this work. It's gonna be great, and we're all gonna be so happy when it's done. I really wish I would have been able to record us walking through Menards because she was so cute. She was like smiling at everybody that we passed, and she did like her little like nose scrunch at people. It was so cute. It took us probably like 10 minutes to walk across the store, but so worth it because she was so proud of herself. Are you a big girl? So this is a board that my brother helped me rip down. I ripped an inch off just because the mantle was hanging too much off the front. So I ripped it down an inch, and now I think it'll be perfect. However, when we cut it, see those burns right there? I don't think I was pulling the wood fast enough through, and it was kind of burning it up a little bit. And I also like didn't do it super straight on that side. But this end is straight. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut a little bit off this so then it's a nice clean edge because it's gonna be exposed. And then I'm gonna bring this up, mark off what I need, how much I need to cut off on that end, and then I can stain this piece. These boards were so dry, like it just sucked in that stain. So it is ready for some sanding and another coat of stain. So the thing that happens with wood when you put stain or like a wood conditioner, anything on, when it dries, it feels kind of furry, for lack of a better word. So all you need to do before you put any kind of sealant on is just take like a sanding block and just lightly sand so then it's smooth to the touch. And then all you do is just kind of wipe it down with like a really damp rag to get up all the dust. Stain it again. And then I think you lightly sand it one more time. You kind of just see how it feels. And then you seal it. So this is the reality of when I'm doing a project. It's literally a freaking mess around here. And dinner tonight is going to consist of leftovers and probably a frozen pizza. Oh, just a few more days. I told Shane I am finishing this mantle by this weekend. It'll be done. Any food around. Brooke is eating. I'm gonna be putting some polyacrylic on the mantle. So polyacrylic, I freaking love it. Everything that I've been using is water-based, which means it does not have a very strong odor at all, which I love being inside around the kids and everything. Second thing, super easy to clean up. Anything, just wipes with water, soap. My hands like aren't all gross. I mean, I know I had gloves on, but like my other hand has, like, I touched the stain and I was able to wash it off. The third reason why I love water-based things is because if you use oil-based stain with like a rag or a stain pad or whatever, you have to let that out. You have to let that air out until it's completely dry. Otherwise, it could catch on fire. So yeah. Plus, polyacrylic will not yellow over time, which polyurethane does because it's an oil and it's yucky. Just don't. I won't touch the stuff now that I know about polyacrylic. Polyacrylic is actually what I use to finish our dining room table. It's held up fantastic over the last like 7-8 months. So highly recommend. I'm also going to be using this special brush that is like made for polyacrylic, and I'll be doing probably two coats. It also dries really quick, which I love. With the water-based products, it's just superior. It's awesome. So this is what the pieces look like after 2 coats of stain. This right here, I'm going to try and sand out with my sander. It is, I'm not really sure what it is, but in the past when I've done projects and the stain has ended up looking like this instead of this, I've usually been able to sand it out. So later today when both kids are awake and whatnot, try to sand it out, and if I can't get it to, I will just have this side down and this other side will be the upside, to the mantle. But it looks pretty good. This is the front piece, which I'm really excited about. Like, it's got a lot more dimension to it than the other pieces, which is good. When it comes to sanding, the lower the number is the rougher that the grit is going to be. So it's going to be taking off a lot more wood. This is the sander that I have. It was literally like $30 at Menards. It's corded. I don't really care. But I like that it has that teardrop so I can really get into corners when I'm sanding things down. So what I'm gonna do is go over these rough parts with 100 grit. I would do 120, but the 121 that I have is kind of beat up. And then I will go over it with a 240 grit, which is much finer, and that'll just make sure it's super, super smooth. One thing I definitely notice with, this is the first time I've ever used a water-based stain. I really do like it, mainly because the smell of oil-based paint is so bad. But one thing I like about oil-based paint, stains versus the water-based is the oil-based really like brings out the grain a lot more, and I feel like the water-based kind of gives it almost like a milky texture, if that like makes any sense. It definitely, like, you can still see grain, but it's much more muted. So that would be my only thing, is if I had like exposed wood like this again, I would probably use more of the oil-based stain because it accentuates that wood grain a little bit more. It also does matter like what kind of wood you use, because like that's oak, and like you can very clearly see like the veining and everything in the grain. But I know if I had used an oil stain, it would be much more pronounced, if that makes any sense. So and one thing I have learned is you can use an oil-based stain and still use the polyacrylic, the water-based sealant. You just have to make sure the oil-based is completely dry. So like it has to dry for a day or two before you can even put any sealant on it. These, I almost got these all completely done yesterday. So like the water-based is obviously faster, but just something to keep in mind if you were like trying to decide between the two. You may have noticed that I am doing a butted up box for the mantle instead of the mitered edges, because I'm just sick of this. I'm sick of this mantle and I just wanted to get it done. So the front is all one piece, and this seam up here will only be visible from the top. So we were totally fine with that. And then yeah, once this dries, the hinges will go in this piece and then that piece right there. I'm hoping this can dry enough that I will be able to do that tomorrow while Tyler is at school. This is the glue that I used. I used it when I made the other mantle, and I loved how it didn't like bubble out. It didn't discolor anything. It's literally, it dries clear, which is crazy. And then this does say to let it bond for at least 24 hours before you do anything, and then clamp it for 20 to 30 minutes. I'm gonna clamp it the rest of the day, probably until morning. So this thing is gonna be solid. And did you know that glue is actually stronger than nails? Who knew? I was going to shoot some nails in it, but I don't know if I'm going to, because I'd have to shoot them in the front and then I would have nail holes. I think it'll be fine without it though. Ignore this. One thing that I wanted to share, because of the amount of people I know that are going to be building mantles in the future, when I clamped this, okay, I made sure that all the clamps were over this board, because even if it's slightly more this way, it'll cock it a little bit. So I'm gonna make sure that these are right over this board. So then it does like a good 90-degree angle. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Good morning. I love when I have to wear hats in the winter. How pretty is that lamp? It's hinge day today. Tyler's at school. Rookie is set up with a snack. We're watching Rookie Fed. It's like a spin-off of the Rookie. They're starting to do crossover events, and I don't like that. So now I'm forced to start watching this show, even though I don't know how I feel about it. But we are going to get started on the Mantle. But first, I'm going to take it apart, and then I'm going to be using the scraps that I cut from the boards that I'm using for the Mantle to figure out how to use these hinges and make them work. So with these hinges, I had to get a special bit that is 14 millimeters. Hello, Sarah, it says it right there. I ordered this with it. It was only like $7 or $8, so like it's not a big deal. So I'm gonna somehow figure out how to make it so that the holes are perfectly aligned for 16 holes. That's gonna be fun. But that's what practice, that's what scraps are for. It's gonna work. Of course. We already have a situation. Okay, so these hinges are 14 millimeter, allegedly. Amazon, 14 millimeter. So I got a 14 millimeter drill bit. But like, this is what's happening. It's too loose. It's too loose for my comfort. So, since I only have one child with me, I'm going to run to the store and grab a 13 millimeter and a 12 millimeter bit and see if that'll work. Because I want these to be kind of snug so it doesn't like fall out, you know what I mean? Also, another thing that is also, sorry, I'm saying also a lot. It's kind of nerve-wracking as well. The hole has to be relatively straight for two reasons. One, so then the boards are straight. And second, so then I don't punch through the sides, because I don't have a whole lot of wiggle room to work with. It's not super forgiving. But so we're gonna run to the store. I feel like there should be a way of like widening this so then it's snug. I don't know. There are like little, I don't know if I can do this one-handed. Oh, I can. There are these little tiny screw heads right there, but they don't seem to really be doing anything. So I'm just gonna go get a smaller drill bit and hopefully that'll work. Well, could not find a 13 millimeter because we live in America. Actually, I don't know if that's the reason, but I found a 1/2 inch, which is 12.7 millimeters. Hoping that will be enough. We'll see. If this bit doesn't work, I don't know. I'm gonna have to order one off Amazon, I think. But it looks promising. It looks very, very promising because I want these to be a little snug. So let's try it. So it does not work. I texted my neighbor to see if they had a 13 millimeter because you just never know. And they're going to let me know here fairly soon. And if they don't have it, I'm going to see if Lowe's has one. Yeah. Yeah. So if they don't have one, I'm not really sure because like my dad doesn't have them, and so I'll probably just be ordering it off Amazon, which is super obnoxious because I want to get this freaking mantle done, and I can't until I get the hinges on. So we'll see. I may have found one. It's at Harbor Freight. So when Brooke wakes up from her nap, well, I'm going to see if our neighbor has one first. Because if I don't have to leave the house, I don't want to. So it looks very, very promising that I'll be able to find something today. My head hurts. Oh, I think I left my coffee in the microwave. All right, well, we sent the people at Harbor Freight on a wild goose chase, but we got it. So the biggest bit it says is point, hold on, 0.5, which the listing on the hinges said it needed 0.55, but I think it's gonna work. If this doesn't work, I might cry. If this doesn't work, I might cry. I had this in my pocket. Well, I ordered a 13 millimeter drill bit. I was going to do this whole cool video of a screenshot or a screen recording of me ordering it, but it had my address like plastered all over it. So Monday, it says it's going to be here on Monday. Why does this always happen to me? I told Shane I am done building stuff for a while. I don't want to build anything. I want to do mindless DIY, like painting. I need a break from this shizness. In today's saga of finding a drill bit, we're here. I looked up like a conversion thing from like what a 13 millimeter would be as close as possible to something in like the fraction things. I don't know what they're called. Okay. I just know it's like metric and then standard. I don't know. I don't really care. So I have 3 different weird sizes. And I'm going to see if Lowe's has. If Lowe's doesn't have it, I might swing by Menards because I don't have any kids. It's kind of like a little vacation for me. And then I gotta go run a few errands, but I'm hoping one of these places has something. You want to know something that's really annoying though? So I was looking at the description of the hinges, and I was like looking at questions, reviews, seeing like what other people had experienced, and it literally says right on the description, size may vary 1 to 2 millimeters. Excuse me? If you sell me a 14 millimeter deal, it needs to be 14 millimeters. Like, stop. Oh, Menards let me down. I'm not like super shocked, although they did have a full set of metric bits, 1 through 10. So, if this 13 millimeter bit doesn't work that I get on Monday, I'm going to return these hinges and get the 10 millimeter hinges because they had them. I also called Acme Electric or Acme Tools. It's like, I don't know, I think it's a local place, but I called them and he was like, yeah, we have metric bits up to 12, not 13. So only one of my Amazons delivered, but it's the most important one. So if this doesn't work, I'm gonna lose my mind. Holy balls. Holy balls. What's happening, people? What's happening? Holy balls. I think it's gonna work. So, the situation though is now the boards aren't like completely perfectly straight. So, but now that I know the holes are lined up, that was the big thing. Okay. So now I'm going to be taking the longer board, the one that I had like ripped down, and permanently installing it on top of the fireplace. So that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. Brookie is in the bath right now. She is teething and miserable. So here's hoping she goes down relatively easy, so I can work on that. Last thing I'm doing tonight, because I'm beat, is put this middle support in the center. I was going to put this in when I had the oak, but just for stability, and I'm definitely doing it with this aspen. I put 4 pocket holes, so I'm going to screw it into the bottom, and then tomorrow when I'm getting ready to cut the sides, I will make sure that this is centered so then I can nail the top into this. Because again, I want that back piece to be solid. And this is gonna help with that. And then I also put shims under here to make sure this is all level. There are ones over here too. Some of these kind of like pop out a little bit when I open it, but it takes 2 seconds to just push it back in once it's folded back down. I don't really know what to do about it. I don't really want to do anything about it because I'm just over it. And I think it'll be fine. I did not think that those clamps were doing anything in the previous slides, but it did actually kind of straighten it out quite a bit. So that was good. Okay, the next course of action with this fireplace is doing these end pieces. So I bought this just 4-foot piece for the sides. So I'm gonna measure from here to here. And remember, this is gonna be resting basically on top of this side piece. And then I have a plan for this. I look crazy. So you see how this sticks out a little bit? I have to bump it more this way, but this part right here, I'm going to notch out of the sides. So I have to cut a little piece out. So then this all matches and then the bottom will line up and everything. But first things first, measuring from here, this side, to the wall, get this piece cut, and then do the same thing to the other side. Once I have the sides cut, then I will make sure everything's lined up and I will nail in the top part of the mantle with 2-inch nails into the sides and then that center support that I put in last night. So here's the final result with how the mantle turned out. It was a huge pain in the neck, but we absolutely love it. Especially how it hides everything so well and we can just have a nice clean mantle with nothing really on top. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you would subscribe to see all my future projects. Now for a cool before and after transition.
Black talk, big t-shirt, Billy. Watch on my wrist, but I want that dime. Niggas talk crazy when I pull up inside.